Climate change. Today, it's known to most as mankind's greatest threat. The onset of rising temperatures in association with man-made causes of greenhouse gas emissions and pollutants have led to an unprecedented warming of Earth's atmosphere to a critical level. When most of us think about climate change, there are a few factors that come to mind immediately. Smoke billowing out of a chimney, for instance. Ice melting at the poles. Cars driving on the road in great numbers. Oil drilling to be used for gasoline production. And the onset of sea level rise. All of these factors pose significant challenges of their own, but the greatest challenge comes in the way we think about climate change. Many of us emphasize the importance of how the problems of global warming affect us here, at home. But climate change's effects are far-reaching and cause severe complications in countries far away from us. In this video, we will examine the onset of climate change and carbon emissions in a nation that you may have never heard of. It's called Micronesia. Micronesia is a Pacific island nation that is located north of Australia and to the northeast of New Guinea. The nation is made up of a series of islands that form an archipelago, of which the four main islands are Pohnpei, Koh Sri, Chuuk, and Yap. But under the Federated States of Micronesia, over 600 islands fall within the jurisdiction of the country. Micronesia's climate is very tropical, characterized by high temperatures year-round, in the low 80s, large rates of precipitation, a distinct wet and dry season, and significant numbers of typhoon storms throughout the year. When we look at carbon emissions for the country, we must take many factors into account. Micronesia's population is only around 100,000 people, most of which rely on subsistence farming and fishing for survival and economic viability. Since the country is located in such a remote part of the world, almost all resources, including manufactured goods, many food staples, and primarily fuel sources, must be imported. With such a small population and the hardship of importing most of the country's goods, high carbon emissions are just not plausible for the country. The total emissions of carbon dioxide fall at about 58,800 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year, about 0.000152% of the global carbon dioxide output. This means that Micronesia's emissions do not cause significant climate change alterations. Instead, climate change induced by the other world nations poses significant problems for the islands of Micronesia itself. For starters, sea level rise is a grave threat to the people of Micronesia. Increased sea level due to melting ice caps and thermal expansion easily encroaches on the low-lying islands. In one example, in December 2008, a nearby storm system and large high tide devastated many of the islands. Saltwater destroyed crop yields, tainted groundwater aquifers, and ravaged community properties and homes. This caused a nationwide state of emergency declaration by the government on December 30th. Secondly, increased CO2 levels cause ocean acidification, which damages shelled organisms and causes bleaching of corals, which disrupts entire ecosystems. With much of the islands surrounded by reef ecosystems, bleaching has a very detrimental impact for Micronesia environmentally and economically. Because most of the economy is based on the sea, disruptions to the reefs effectively eliminate fisheries that are vital to the well-being of the people. Finally, the issue of heat and weather events poses another problem. With warmer global temperatures and higher sea levels, strong storms are effectively fueled up with heat and excess water. In this manner, frequent typhoons in the region become larger and more powerful, leading to very dangerous conditions for the people of Micronesia. All of these climate forcings are expected to worsen in the coming years. For Micronesia, it is a bitter irony. Micronesia has been very proactive in switching its fossil fuels to more renewable energy practices in the past 2 decades. At the Paris Climate Accord in 2016, Micronesia established goals to reach CO2 levels 28% lower than 2000 levels by 2025. They pledged to increase renewables to 30% of energy capacity by 2025, as well as to increase energy efficiency by 50%. So far, the nation has done just that, increasing renewable generation from 4.3% to 19% in the last decade alone, and cutting diesel fuel emissions in the electricity sector by 1/3 in 2018. Carbon dioxide emissions are expected to decrease another 2% by 2025, with an additional 3% decrease by 2030, yielding a 5% increase above the initial nationally overall determined contribution. In retrospect, Micronesia is doing its part, but suffering much greater than many other nations who expel more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere than they do themselves. For Micronesians, the race to beat climate change is on, but it is up to those nations who abuse their emissions to get their act together, to ensure the prosperity for themselves and for countries like Micronesia.